In Maryland, we're not considered physicians, according to the board, as far as my understanding. And but Mike's saying we can do impairment ratings. So I'm a little confused on that because it says physicians can do it, but if we're not considered physicians, if we showed up in court, my concern would be, are Dr. Ingram, are you a physician as defined by the chiropractic statutes in Maryland? That's what I'd be wondering.
Okay, just so you do know, Pat, I was from Kentucky and practiced in Kentucky. And Kentucky was the same way. We were not licensed physicians, we were licensed doctors.
Right. Okay.
And I have no trouble giving impairment ratings. And the reason is what is the true meaning behind physician?
Right, right.
The true meaning behind physician is primary care provider. What does that mean? Primary care provider. It means you have the ability, without a referral, to see patients for the consultation, order diagnostics, and give a diagnosis, as well as therapeutic protocol.
Right.
That's the definition of a primary care provider.
Yeah, the only difference I saw online was they were defining physician as someone that could prescribe medicine in addition to all those other things. But as far as impairments go, I don't think anybody would be better suited than us to do that. I mean, we see these patients, and we see them hands-on, more than anybody else.
Well, I'm not going into opinion now.
Yeah, I know.
You've got to go into clarity. In other words, I had no trouble giving impairment ratings and justifying impairment ratings in Louisville, Kentucky, and even though we were not licensed physicians, we were licensed doctors, licensed chiropractors. Okay, so I had no problems at all, but you have got to come to that solution in your head.
Well, I just was, when I was listening to I was listening to your videos and explanations on impairments, and the first thing that you said each and every time was, your ability to give an impairment evaluation was determined by physician status, and then you went on to the other ones as well. And but it just kept hearing that, and that's why I texted you, and I was kind of like, here's what it is in Maryland. I didn't know about Kentucky.
Okay.
In order to sometimes when I've been in court, that question would come up is like, you're not a physician when it would come to impairment ratings or something like that. And you just have to clarify that, although in Maryland, we're considered doctors of chiropractic, and we don't use the term physician. However, we are recognized as physicians by Medicare and Blue Cross Blue Shield, and that the guides are not limited to the use of just physicians. It says the guides can be used by medical and non-medical people. The doctor or the physician would make the diagnosis, and a layperson could take that information using the charts and come up with the physical impairment. So using the guide's own definition, that you and I as chiropractors are more than capable of doing impairment ratings.
Okay.
Well, that's interesting, but you do have to have a real clear explanation of why you have the ability to do it. But to me, I told you my clear explanation is primary care provider. That's the key word, primary care provider. Why? Because you have the ability to see patients without referrals, do the consultation, the diagnostics, and give the diagnosis and treatment protocol. That's called a primary care provider. See, so that's the angle that I come from. I mean, this just came up in court recently where I was in a deposition, and the attorneys, they didn't even know chiropractors were doctors. I had to explain to them what the definition of doctor was, and basically you want to go to the primary care provider.
Right.
Without a referral, what are the key components? Without a referral, that's a key component. Have the ability to consult a patient examine the patient, do diagnostics for the patient, give the diagnosis, and the therapeutic protocol. Those are the 5 components of a primary care physician. And that's essentially the role of a physician in the impairment rating capacity.
Makes sense.
But you just have to be able to justify it yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm cool with that.
And I've never had it. I never had him question me. I said it's a physician function. It's a physician or doctor function is what I used to say. Physician or doctor function. And meaning it's a primary care provider function. Somebody who has the ability to do X, Y, Z, like I just identified. That was how I answered that question.
Yeah, well, that ties it together for me, and I'm glad we can do it because you know, I had tried to send for some impairment ratings to some of the orthos, and they just they were getting flustered that I was asking for the impairment ratings. They didn't want me doing that at all. They wanted to talk to the attorneys, not me. So I'd rather just handle it myself and just lay it out there in the report.
Yeah, you're going to lose a lot of ability if you decide that you can't give impairment ratings.
Yeah, right now I'm not going to do that. Yeah, I'm going to do it.
You're going to inhibit. Let me just tell you, you're going to inhibit the hell out of yourself.
Right.
Because remember, where does the impairment role in the injury award? Where is it?
It's pretty high up because it gives you the prognosis and a need for future care, right?
That's where everything starts.
Yeah.
Everything starts at the impairment, and you don't have the impairment, you just eliminate 2 of the 4 injury awards.
Right.
And the most important part of the injury award is, was there a permanent impairment, and how did it cause pain or restrictions with activities of daily living, which are impairment indexes. Where did they come from? They're supported with the impairment.
Right. And they're not going to, and if you send it over to the ortho, they're not going to use, you know, the findings that we have to determine the impairment. So it, you know, it kind of falls apart.
Yeah, that's not. Now, I'll tell you what I did is I educated the neurosurgeon. I always recommend neurosurgeons to work with, not orthopedists. Orthopedists are a different animal. Neurosurgeons routinely are way more respectful and courteous to chiropractors because they get a lot of business from chiropractors. The disc problems a lot of times go to the neurosurgeon. But I always recommend, and then what I did is when I educated my neurosurgeon on, you know, physical medicine relative to the science of the 3 phases of healing and what we do. Of course, they love that. What they really liked about it is how it minimizes the nerves getting trapped in the scar tissue, which is the #1 cause of Feldback surgery syndrome. So they really paid a lot of attention to that. So when I won them over, the neurosurgeon, then I asked them, I said, hey, do you mind if on occasion I send you my impairment rating and you just give me your idea if you agree with the impairment rating, or would you give a different impairment rating? And they go, yeah, no problem, you know. And so if it was going to be a pretty big case or something, then I gave the impairment rating. I still did. And then I'd sent it over to the neurosurgeon, and
They just blessed it, yeah.
And he said, yeah, I agree with this impairment rating.
Yeah.
That's how. But did I do that with everyone? No. I only did that like when it was going to be a really big case. But I was never challenged in court or in a deposition with an impairment rating relative to the word physician.
Okay, good.
So, okay, but if I were, I just told you the answer that I would give, and that's the answer I just gave to a board of attorneys, judges in Chicago as an expert witness. They didn't even know doctors or chiropractors were considered doctors. I'd explain that.